This video is to provide a refresher on converting day to night for video. Now, as we move forward, I do want to remind you guys that we are going to be working in a linearized color space. So make sure that you come down here where it says 16 bits per channel, click that. Or if yours says 8, click that, or 32, click that, and come in here. And let's set this so we could choose 8, 16, or 32. We're going to choose 16. We want to make sure that we come down, we scroll all the way down and choose HD TV Rec 709, and then we just want to make sure that that little box is clicked for linearized working space. And so that'll put us in a good color space to work. And from there, let's pull in our day to night V2. It is important that you do set up your color space because the values and things like that will be different if you're not working in that color space. And so things might seem darker or brighter or whatever the case may be. So you want to make sure that to follow this video, you've come down here and you've clicked this button and you've set these parameters: 16 bits, HD TV, Rec 709, and linearized working space. Okay, so we have our day to night. Let's just pull that out into a new composition. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go to Effect, Color Correction, and Tint. We're going to do Effect, Color Correction, and Curves. And that looks perfect. So let's just set our tint to 80. And then for our curves, let's grab our white point right here and let's drag it all the way down here to this very bottom box. And let's just get that inside there. Okay. And then from here, let's change this from RGB to red. Let's pull out some of the red. Something like that. Well, let's come back up and click on the word red and change that to blue. Let's pull in some blue. And so you should have your RGB pulled all the way down here into this bottom box, your red pulled down, and your blue pulled up a little bit. Okay, from here let's go to Layer, New, Solid. And if we come down here and we see this little black icon, let's click on that. And I have a code here for you guys. Let's put in 00031F. And that'll give us this nice dark blue solid. And we're just going to say OK. And so from here, let's change this, our track mode. If we click on that, let's change that to saturation. Okay, and if we turn the eyeball on and off, you can see what's happening a little bit. Let's also change our opacity. So if we just hit T for transparency, also brings up our opacity. So if we just hit T, bring up opacity. And let's just change that to 50. Just so we just bring that down just a bit. Okay. I'm going to duplicate this layer so we can go up to Edit and Duplicate, or we can just hit Control D for Duplicate. And I'm going to change this to an overlay. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. So I just rolled my mouse backwards. If you don't have a mouse to do that, you can just click right down here and you can set whatever value you want. So we could really zoom out, like 1.5 is really far, but I think I was what, 25, and that's perfect. And so with my overlay deep blue selected, I'm going to come up to the mask. I'm just going to click that, and I'm just going to drag a big box starting over here, and I'm going to come down just where I'm grabbing this guy. And that looks good. And so I'm going to come on, I'm going to click back on my little selection tool. And I'm going to come to the deep blue solid. Now, if you're not in linear workspace, The settings for transparency are probably perfect. But for me, I'm going to increase that just a little bit, just to darken that sky just a hair, maybe up to 60, not a whole lot. Okay, now we need to feather this mask quite a bit. So I'm just going to hit F for feather, or you can always just click this arrow and it's going to pull up all the properties. So we've got mask, we've got our transform, and we can open these up. We can find feather that way too, or we can just hit F for feather. So we can get to it here, or we can just hit F for feather. Okay, I'm going to change this to 100. And I'm just going to zoom back in. And we have a basic day to night conversion already. So we've got some good stuff already rolling. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I really just want to add a little bit of life to this. So I'm going to go from my effects, I'm going to click on project, and I'm going to click on this original day to night, and I'm just going to drag it. If you see right here, there's this little comp icon. I'm going to drag this day to night onto the comp icon, and it's just going to make me a new composition with this footage. Okay, so I want to make I want to do a little bit of tracking, so I'm just rolling my mouse in, and I'm just holding spacebar and left clicking, or I can also just come up here. I could click on the hand tool or whatever, but I'm going to just kind of zoom in, and what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to track this window, and yeah, and maybe we'll track. Seems like we didn't get as good of a track as I was hoping, so we might track something a little further over here this time. So anyways, let's just come down here and let's right click on our day to night footage. Let's go up to track and stabilize and come over to track motion. So again, right click, track and stabilize, track motion. And it took us away from our window, so I'm just going to zoom in on this. And be careful, you don't want to move that little dot out of that box. So don't click right on that dot. You just want to click somewhere in this inner box and just drag the whole thing. I'm just going to push my whole comp over, push my whole comp up, and I'm just going to zoom in on that window. And that's great. I want to add a rotation, so I'm going to come and click on rotation. And let's see, what else do we track just to give us a little better area. Okay, so I think we want this window, so let's just pull this tracker all the way over to this area. And I'm just going to make this inner box a little bit bigger. So something like that. Okay. Over here. Okay. I'm at the beginning of my comp, so I'm just going to come over here and track forward. And I'm just going to let that track out. Now, I did not create a null yet, so we're going to need to create a null and make sure that our motion target is assigned to that null. And so we'll do that next after this track is done. And it is. So let's come up here and go to layer. Click in our comp. Go to layer, new, and let's go down to null. Okay. Let's go back to our day to night tracker over here. And let's just click edit target. And right there, it sets a null one. That's great. And we just click OK. And now we can see, just by doing edit target and it finding it and us clicking OK, it put the word null one right next to motion target. And it wasn't there before, but we want it there. So that's perfect. So now I'm just going to click apply, and then I'm going to click OK, and it's going to create a null that's going to respect all of that. So that's awesome. And I'm just going to rename my null to tracker. Okay. And I didn't create folders, so I probably should do that. So let's just create a couple folders. Footage, comps, images. Drag that to footage. Oops. these two columns. Okay, so I'm going to name this the version 3 to final. Okay. All right, so this is perfect. We've got a track. So what we want to do from here is we want to go ahead and create some window glows. So let's go to Layer. Let's click back in our comp. Go to Layer, New, and Solid. And again, let's come down here and click on this little color icon. And I have another code here for you. So let's do FF9B00. And that gives us a good glow. And let's just click OK. And actually, I might want that a little oranger. So I'm just going to pull that down. Yeah, I think I might actually like it like that. So now I've got FF6600. So maybe use that as your code. Okay, I like that. So let's click OK. And I'm just going to turn the eyeball off for the orange solid. I want to make sure that the orange solid stays selected. And I'm just going to use the day to night as a footage, as a guide. But I want to make sure that the orange solid is highlighted. So I'm just going to zoom in. And I'm going to click the pen tool. And I'm just going to rough out these windows. Okay. I'm just going to do this real quick. And again, I'm using space and left clicking when I want the mouse or the hand so I can move things around. Again, you can toggle your hand and your pen back and forth, but I'm just using some shortcuts. Okay. We got this little door window thing, whatever that is. That's pretty awesome. Just remove that one. And then again, we had this window like right there. So we're going to try to get this. If it doesn't work, we'll just flip it back off. Okay. And okay, so I don't want to accidentally make another mask, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on my selection tool. And before I change any timelines or anything, I just want to come to the orange solid. Select this little swirly thing. That's our pick whip. I just want to drag that to the word tracker. Or I could always, come and pick that null through here. Either way, it's fine. And now I just want to turn on the eyeballs for the orange solid. Okay, so I'm going to click on the orange solid. Those are pretty stark, so I'm going to feather those. And I'm going to feather those by 5. So if I just click F for feather, I'll get all the masks. So if I just click the first mask, and I shift click the last mask, I'll get them all selected. And then I can just come and click on any one of these numbers. And I'm going to just type in 5. Okay, so that just put a 5 value for all the feathers. So I'm just going to collapse that by clicking that arrow. I'm going to change my transfer mode to screen. And again, if you don't see your transfer mode, you can always right click on layer, go to columns, and make sure there's a checkbox. Okay. Or actually, let's not do screen. Excuse me again. Let's just click, let's do an add. And I think that's going to work better. Okay. So from here, let's drag in that day to night V2, and let's drag it right under the orange solid. So now we should have something like that. And if I hold spacebar, I can recenter all of that. One last thing I might want to do is if we go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, if I click on Effects, I'll get back to my effects, or I can go to Effect and down to Color Correction and over to Curves. By putting that curves on that adjustment layer, it gives me the ability to make things darker just by clicking right here in the middle. So I'm going to do that again. Just click right here in the middle, and I can make things brighter, or I can make things darker. So depending on what the director wants, or what you feel is good for the shot, this gives you a way to dial in some brightness. So I'm just gonna, I might darken it up like just a hair. But that provides us a basic day to night, and let's just kind of play that and let's see how our windows are sticking. And so it looks like our little window is sticking a little bit better over there. But yeah, so that's a basic day to night conversion, and allowing us to add a little bit of life to some of those windows. And yeah, there we go. Hope that helps.